The other thing you got to realize is your energy matters, the way you show up matters, and the way that you're conducting yourself matters. And so you got to make sure that they're scoring you subconsciously at all times. And so, especially face-to-face at a table, I got to be present with them. And so the one way I look at it is you all fully present. I watch a lot of people, they'll have like twitches and they're looking around. That's a skill you got to make sure that you're I don't know how you just create it. I've taught this story before. I'd be in the conference room downstairs in listing appointments. I'd have my life burning down outside of work or whatever else going on. Guess what? I'm 100% committed eye to eye with him.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years, and our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
I looked at where we're struggling at a lot of times for our people, and I think a lot of it has to do with rapport. Now, I was talking with Jeremy about this the other day. Why is that? What's so important about rapport? Right? That's where all the influence in the sales part comes in my opinion. If I'm not in rapport, both consciously and subconsciously, or consciously, unconsciously, however you want to say it, that I'm not going to get the sale. And I was thinking about if I was listening to some of the conversations and listening to some of the things that's happening, I think a lot of times what's happened is we're not rapport. We think we're in rapport, but we're not, based on, really has to do with one, do they want to work with you? Two, do they actually listen to you? And that's the key part of that. And I went back to some Jordan Belfort stuff, which is important. There's so much, I've been through it probably 15 times, and every time I go back, I hear something else that I forgot about, or that I didn't remember, or that, whatever it is. So that's something that is important for all of us. And if you look at the fast track Jordan Belfort and the full Jordan Belfort, the full one's way better. There's way more shit in the full one. So if you guys have been doing the fast track on there, the full one's like 10x of that one. And just in my opinion, right? And so we all talked about, remember, the overall sales process, right? We all know that sales is a transfer of emotion, right? And for really, I think, certainty. And we all talked about the straight line. Remember that part? So we have the straight line here. I'm going to build this in a second, but we have basically 0, and then we have 10 here. And the straight line's in the middle. And so the first part is obviously where the sale is started. Number 10 at the end is where the sale is completed. We're in an agreement, right? The lines on the outside, I think Belfort talks about Pluto and Uranus, he calls about it. He says last place you want to be is in Uranus, right? So that's one thing that, at least for the buyer to be. And so our goal there is to keep them in line. And really what that means is, what we want to do, we got to control the sale. We want to control the sale in the process. And there's multiple things that have to happen. It comes down to key tenets. And we'll talk about that. There's 3 key parts. And there's 2 extra parts that are after that. And so that's the important part. But before any of this starts, this is a reminder for me today, before anything starts, what do you have to establish? Ryan, you remember these? No, but there's 3 things. Number 1, I got to establish immediately, I'm sharp as a tack. What does that mean? Yep, both visually, if they're meeting face to face, but also on the phone. And so if I'm calling the phone and I'm not establishing that I'm sharp as a tack through my tonality, what happens subconsciously? Gone already. In the first 2 seconds, it's gone. We talk about visually, face-to-face, you have 1/24th of a second before they judge the shit out of you if they like you or not, and that pretty much decides whether they're going to work with you or not. 1/24th of a second. And so that's the important part there. Number 2, what is it? Enthusiastic as hell. Why does that matter?
They're not going to like what you don't like.
Yep, if I'm not excited, they're not going to be excited. Bottom line. And so that's the key part that's important. And then number 3 is what? A force? Figure of authority, or a force to be reckoned with, right? What is most of this transferred through? Yep, the tonality and enthusiasm are the 2. Meaning, so do we naturally do this? Nope. But you got to create this, and this, again, just like the last part, is a muscle. And so there's so much on the phones you listen to, and if I'm just calling and just, hey, this is, Blake, call and see how things are going, guess what they think? Dude, I don't really care who you are. I'm busy. I got a lot going on right now. But if I'm calling you excited as hell, whatever it is, hey, John, what's up, man? It's Blake from Myrtle Beach. How you doing? And I'm connecting there through that tonality, guess what happens? They're excited and they're receptive. And they're open. And so the last thing I want them to do is have their subconscious shut me out within 5 seconds. Does that make sense? And so, same thing. Going back here, I know what to do. I know I got to do all these things. If I call and I don't have the right energy, which is the actual execution, what happens? I'm totally screwed. And so all this here starts on the very first time I talk to them on the phone call. That's why some people who are blessed, they have natural energy, they're able to get a little bit of an advantage naturally. That's why you see them do a little bit better in the beginning. But if you take it over time and you can create this and you have that energy of just connection, then guess what? It makes a whole lot of difference. So first part, sharp as attack. Number 2, enthusiastic as hell, and obviously established as an authority. I think their word also is, you're a force to be reckoned with, and they know that. Like, I'm certain, right? I know I'm calling that lead because they contacted me and he entered his information. If you're calling, you're scared that they're going to get mad at you, then guess what? You're not a force to be reckoned with. I get pissed off of people or, mad because I'm calling. What do you mean you're mad because I'm calling? Because you just put your information on my website and I'm calling you about it. And if I didn't call you, I wouldn't be doing my job. And if I didn't call you, I would be a professional. And anybody that doesn't call you doesn't need to be in the business. Right? You want to have that mindset of certainty from the inside out because guess what? They can feel it. And so that's the important part where I can't teach that. You just got to own that. And so we can build anything on top of that, but if that part is not done daily, with a daily discipline, guess what? We're shooting ourselves in the foot. And so I think that's the important part that we have to have. Now, obviously, the whole thing here is a transfer of emotion. This is what, in my opinion, this is what gets you to the starting line. This is like when you're riding the ride, and are you tall enough to ride the ride? 52 inches or whatever it is. If you aren't doing this, you ain't riding the ride. Okay, they send you home before you get on the ride. And so if once I establish those 3 things on the phone, or face-to-face, or in the house, or whatever it is, right? I want you to think that have that I own the energy. So if I'm meeting them at a property, guess what? The minute I get out my car, and the minute they get out their car, or they open the door of the house, guess what? I want to own the energy, like Ryan said, I want them to feel me. And so that's where these 3 things come in. At that point, that's when the game starts. That's when it's the game plan for you to execute and win the game in that part. Now, a bunch of things. Number 1, first thing I want to do, I got to establish control. What's that mean?
Set the frame. Yeah, you set the frame of the call by continuing with questions too.
First part is important, establish control. This has to do on the phone call. That's related to tonality too. This is a face-to-face appointment. This is in their living room, Jeremy. This is in our office down here. This is in a property, in a foreclosure with no electricity, whatever it is. You got to make sure you establish control. And that's done through, 1, being an expert, that they feel you're an expert, you're sharp, and that's how you're perceived to them. That starts with dress, energy, tonality, all those things are matter. You got to be on point. You got to create that from the inside out. Number 2, we got to get into instant rapport, both consciously and subconsciously. We'll talk about this more, but how you do this? But if I just come and start grilling you the questions, what happens?
You got to do first level, and then sometimes I see some people will mirror the other person's actions to shows some kind of rapport. That's just like a small sales tactic there that I picked up from these little trainings.
Yeah, I like to do that, the mirroring aspect. I'll mirror their energy and mirror their tonality, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's like at a table downstairs in the conference room, right? From the property, I got to bring in that aspect, and I'm basically nice. Hey, what's up, Mike? I'm Blake. How you doing? First step is that I remember their name from when obviously the appointment was booked or whenever there is, right? Introduce myself to the other person if they're there. I remember their name. I'm able to use that, right? That's a quick, very thing that you got to remember everybody's name because I can pull them back to my frame by saying their name. Hey, Alex, how you like this room? It kind of pulls them back in subconsciously. I'm able to do that. The other thing you got to realize is your energy matters, the way you show up matters, and the way that you're conducting yourself matters. And so you got to make sure that they're scoring you subconsciously at all times. And so, especially face-to-face at a table, I got to be present with them. And so the one way I look at it is you all fully present. I watch a lot of people, they'll have like twitches and they're looking around. That's a skill you got to make sure that you're I don't know how you just create it. I've taught this story before. I'd be in the conference room downstairs in listing appointments. I'd have my life burning down outside of work or whatever else going on. Guess what? I'm 100% committed eye to eye with them. And so that's important there as well. One of the reports I was looking at, Jordan Belfort, they talk about eye contact 70% of the time. That you have the eye contact 70% of the time. And so that's a key thing that's important there. All these are small subconscious things in that regard. And then number 3 is what some of you guys, I use that rapport to gather intelligence. That's where what comes, Matt?
What was that?
What happens there?
I'm sorry, I missed
I was giving you a chance to say what you said last time. So I use that rapport to gather intelligence.
asking questions.
Asking questions,
Sorry,
right?
question, my apologies.
So I use that to gather intelligence. And so, right, 1, establish control, aka establish a frame. You want to own that energetically. I want to own that world, and I'm feeling that I'm a force to be reckoned with, and they got to feel it. You can see when people come in the room, they own the room, they lighten the room up, they have the energy of the certainty, whatever it is. Now, guess when this starts right here? I just want to have you consider that establishing control started at 6:30 that morning when you got up. And you made your bed and you went and worked out and you did all that stuff because guess what? I'm already in control of my day and that energy's there and they can feel that. If I just rolled out of bed and I was late, I'm tired, whatever it is, I don't have my shit together, I can still pull it off, but it's not as likely to be natural. Does that make sense? And so that's where the snowball effect comes in throughout that day. It's important. Now, these are the 3 things that matter, and I got to get these. I'm going to use these things here to unlock the safe. You guys remember we talked about that? Use the example, I think the movie of the Italian Job. To unlock the safe, what happens there? How do you unlock a safe?
You gotta find you gotta do the right combination of numbers.
You gotta listen.
You gotta listen.
But how do I unlock a safe? How do I unlock the combination?
Put your ear on it.
Yep, put my ear on it, then what?
Listen closely.
All right. I unlock the safe 1 number at a time. I can't try to, if I tested all of those at the same time and I'm listening, guess what happens? I'm probably not going to be there for a very long time. And so the key there is I got to make sure I'm unlocking the safe 1 number at a time to do. If you all remember, I got to move these things down the pipe here of what I'm doing from 0 all the way to 10, and I have to have 3 things. 3 separate, I want to get a 10, 10, 10. And there's 2 more numbers in this safe that are important to do. Number 1, I got to get my client to a 10 out of 10 here. And I switch it for us. Number 1, they got to have a 10 on you. So I need my client to be a 10 out of 10 on me. Because I switched it up based on how the original thought is. Why? Because in our business, guess who is the product? You necessarily, right? Do we have our value propositions, which are very amazing and unbeatable in my opinion, but if they don't like you, the product doesn't matter, at least in our business, right? I'm not selling a widget or a TV, right? They're selling your service is basically what you're offering to them to help them. So in my opinion, that's most important. Number 2, product. What's that going to be? Presentation. Did I articulate my product in the way that they see massive value, massive benefits from this? And this, once again, is also a scale that we're able to use through the entire process of this. And then what's the 3rd one? Company, right? So I need a 10, 10, 10 all my clients. So if I have people who aren't listening to me, who aren't basically following through, there's some area of these that I'm actually missing. 10 on you, 10 on the product, 10 on the company. We do pretty well with the company part as a group with our reviews, our testimonials, right? On top of that, guess what we're able to do? We're able to help you with an amazing product that's federally trademarked with everything with it. And you notice that the first part of what we're supposed to do, even in Jordan's thing, he says you want to establish an expert. There's a reason that we have the certified real estate expert federally trademarked, and it says expert in your presentation about 20 times. That helps you establish that you're a what? Expert. There's no accident there. And so I got to get my client from a 0 to a 10, 10, 10, and all these in the safe through that process. And so that's done through a series of events, influence, basically way you're influencing them through your tonality, through the way you're talking, and all the stuff that you're able to do. But if I look back at it, where I find a lot of people screw up is they screw up the connection. They don't feel you. And so if they don't feel me both consciously and subconsciously, and really logically and emotionally, they're not going to want to work with me. And so I can have the best presentation, the best everything, and deep down in their gut they say, you know what? There's something about this guy, something about this girl that I don't like. And it scares them, they pull off and they pump the brakes. And so you could be at an 8, a 9, and a 6, and you're in trouble. But the problem is we don't know that they're a 6 about us because we're not hyper aware about it. Does that make sense for you guys?